Hey there, birders. Joe, the Springbrook Birder for the DuPage Birding Club. Most of the time, I like to talk about birding at Springbrook Prairie. But today, I wanted to talk to you about another birding activity that I really enjoy, and that is the spring bird count. You know, across the nation, birders all over the country really enjoy participating in two great traditions. The first is the Christmas bird count, which is a count of birds that was started in the early 1900s that takes place around Christmas time. The second is a bird count in the spring, usually about the time of peak migration in your local area. In some places, this spring count can take the form of a big day where individuals or groups or teams go out and count all the species they can find in a single day. In other areas, the spring count is more like the Christmas bird counts, in that people go out and count birds, not only species, but also the number of birds that they see. And that is what we have here in Illinois, in DuPage County. The spring count is similar to the Christmas count, except that instead of using circles as an area, we use the entire county as an area. And so I'd like to talk tonight about the spring bird count in Illinois in DuPage County. Spring bird count in DuPage County takes place the first weekend in May. And one of the great things about the count, and makes it much more fun for birders than, say, the Christmas count, is that there are certainly a lot more birds to see, including many of these warblers. And so you can find a lot more birds in May than in December in northern Illinois. This DuPage Birding Club video talks about the spring bird count in DuPage County, how it came about, how it is organized, how the information can be used to gain insights to bird populations in DuPage County and throughout the state. To begin, we need to travel back to 1972. Vernon Clean, a biologist with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, was looking for a way to harness the observation power of the many bird watchers in Illinois, collect some information that would be useful in monitoring the bird population trends in the state. The older and well-established Christmas bird count had proved to be a valuable resource in looking at trends of wintering birds, but did not provide very useful information on migratory or summer resident birds. Eventually, Vernon settled on the idea of holding a bird count in the spring that would be based on the successful methods used in the Christmas bird count. So the Illinois spring bird count was hatched. With the cooperation of bird clubs that existed at the time, as well as other birders in the state, Vernon organized the first spring bird count in 1972. During the first spring bird count, which was held on May 6, 1972, 650 birders in 62 counties participated. The tradition started back then and grew quickly, and the spring bird count has been conducted annually since that date. The spring bird count continues to this day. It is coordinated now by the Illinois Natural History Survey. The spring bird count is held around the first Saturday in May with the intent of getting every county in the state to field a group of birders to go out and count birds in their county. Information on the counts can be viewed at the Illinois Natural History Survey website. DuPage County did not participate in that first count, but joined the spring count a year later in 1973. This was many years before the DuPage Birding Club was formed. But there were still many birders in DuPage County, and one of them, Paul Mooring, volunteered to be the compiler for DuPage County. Hall organized 7 observers and 6 parties to participate in the first DuPage spring bird count. They reported a total of 72 species, 2,329 birds on that first count. Since then, interest and participation in DuPage County has grown tremendously. It has become an annual event and tradition. We now have 49 years of spring bird count data, and will celebrate 50 years of counting spring birds in 2022. DuPage Birding Club coordinates the spring count for DuPage County. Participation has grown tremendously since that first count in 1973, and we now usually have over 100 participants for the count. Organizing that group of birders takes quite a bit of work to ensure that most of the areas of the county are covered and people do not count the same area twice. Luckily, we have had a great group of birders in DuPage County who have stepped up to take that challenge. Among them are the county compilers who organize the count. Over the 49 years of the count, we have had only 6 compilers: Paul Mooring, Dick Young, Dick Blewett, Bob Fisher, Ron Sconelli, and myself. I assumed compiler duties in 2019. To facilitate organization of the count, DuPage County is divided into 16 areas as shown on the map. Each area has an area captain who coordinates coverage of the area for the count day. The area captain makes assignments for birders to cover specific areas, compiles the results for the area, and then sends the results onto the county compiler. The compiler then puts all the data together to prepare a report on the count and send the data to the state. The data collected on the spring count provides some interesting insights into the birds of DuPage County. You can examine the 49 years of sighting information and look for trends in population over time. You can look at what the most common birds are and see how often rarities show up in spring. As an example, 39 bird species have been seen on every spring count since 1973. On the list are the most common birds that you would expect to see in DuPage County, such as Canada goose, downy woodpecker, American robin, cardinal, and red-winged blackbird. One surprising species that has been seen on every spring count is red-headed woodpecker, a species you now do not see very often in the county. But if you look at the spring count data on red-headed woodpeckers, you will see that they were once much more common. In 2021, birders found 31 red-headed woodpeckers. But in the early 1980s, red-headed woodpeckers were much more common. A high count of 101 spotted on the spring count in 1982. Another example is the ringneck pheasant. On the first spring count in 1973, 26 pheasants were spotted. Then from 1977 through 1990, DuPage birders found over 100 pheasants on the spring count each year. Since 2013, only 3 pheasants have been seen in the county on the spring count, demonstrating the significant decline of that species due to the change in land use from agriculture to suburban landscape. Overall, as the number of observers has increased over the years, so has the number of species observed. On average, we are recording 156 species on the spring count. That is a large number of species for one day. The highest number of species seen were 183 in 2004 and 188 in 2014. Since the count began, we have recorded a total of 261 species on the spring count. Of course, some of those species have been unusual birds or rarities. and 20 have only been observed once over the last 49 years. This includes some pretty interesting birds that showed up on the spring count, including cinnamon teal, wood stork, golden eagle, new to the list in 2021, and hinga. Interestingly, one very rare bird, black rail, has actually been seen twice on the count, 2010 and again in 2021. Making sense of the data takes some careful analysis, especially since the spring count is a single-day count during migration. Both the number of species seen, the number of birds can fluctuate greatly during migration due to weather and the direction of nightly winds. Numbers have to be examined in terms of weather and migration variables. For example, weather was certainly a factor for the 1989 spring count. On that day, the high temperature in May was 40 degrees and there were snow showers. In addition, when looking at the data over all these years, you also have to consider the number of birders in the field and the level of effort they put in looking for birds. We keep track of the hours spent looking for birds as an indication of level of effort. So while Paul Mooring and his group spent 28 party hours looking for birds in 1973, DuPage Birders spent 372 party hours in the field during the 2021 spring count, a new record for level of effort. An interesting statistic is to look for the number of birds seen per party hour. That gives you a normalized indicator of bird abundance. Interestingly, during the first spring count, the group only spent 28 party hours in the field, but their birds seen per party hour was 82. That is higher than the 71 birds per party hour recorded in 2021. We had many more people in the field and spent many more hours looking for birds. If you look at birds per party hour statistic over the years, it was highest in the late 1980s, early 1990s, with values of over 100 birds per party hour. Over the last 10 years, the average number of birds seen per party hour has been about 81. Perhaps that indicates that birds have actually become harder to find during spring counts over the most recent few years. Finally, we reached a milestone in 2021 regarding the total number of birds counted on the spring count in DuPage County. Birders have now counted 1,009,458 birds during the spring count, breaking that million bird threshold. Congratulations are in order to all the birders over the years who have helped us achieve that great milestone. Information and data on the spring counts can be found at the DuPage Birding Club website. And of course, we are not done yet. Next spring count will take place on Saturday, May 7th, 2022. Now, I hope you will join us for this fun event. In fact, you might as well put it on your calendar right now. I hope you enjoyed this video on the spring bird count in DuPage County, and that we piqued your interest in both looking at the historical data and in participating in future counts. For the DuPage Birding Club, I'm Joe the Springbrook Birder. Good birding.